Okay. Brought to you by Zevia. Okay, we are reading the answer to the Atheist Handbook that Dr. Richard Wurmbrand put out. Did I say doctor? He's Reverend Wurmbrand. Sorry about that. And this is his rebuttal to the 1961 Moscow's Academy of Science Atheistic Handbook. And so if you've been following us in our reading time, great. And we're going to continue on with Reverend Wurmbrand's chapter on the definition of religion. The Atheist Handbook begins with an analysis of different definitions of the word religion given by philosophers. But neither Plato, who said that religion is right behavior towards the gods, nor Plutarch, from whom religion is midway between atheism and superstition, is mentioned. The book begins with later thinkers and, sorry to say, with falsehoods. Not one of the quotations is actually correct. Carlyle wrote, "A lie should be trampled upon and extinguished whenever found. I am for fumigating the atmosphere when I suspect that falsehood like pestilence breathes around me." Plato had taught that authors of books should consider themselves as priests. The evil of using falsehood consists not only in the lie that passes for truth, but in the fact that men eventually lose faith in other books. The story is told of a Bedouin who once traveled on a camel through the desert. A man stopped him, saying, "Please, make a place for me on the back of the camel, as I have a long journey." The owner of the camel honored the request, and the stranger mounted behind him. Suddenly, as they rose farther, the stranger with a skillful movement threw the owner from the camel and fled. The owner cried after him, "I am not angry because you have stolen my animal. I have many more camels, but I am sad that you have made it harder for anyone in the future to be helpful to a man he meets on the road." Wow. The Atheist Handbook cares nothing about truth or trust. My opponents quoted Immanuel Kant as having written that religion is the understanding by man of moral duty. Following are the words of this philosopher quoted directly. Religion is morals in reference to God as legislator. It is the recognition of our duties looked upon as divine commandments. My opponents say that Ludwig Feuerbach defined religion as the connection between men. This again is false. In his book, The Essence of Christianity, he says religion is the dream of the human mind. Even the definitions given by atheist authors are falsified. Solomon Reinach is quoted as having taught that religion is a system of contradictions. We find the correct text in his book, Orpheus. Religion is the sum of superstitious beliefs which hinder the legitimate working of man's faculties. That they found it necessary to falsify the words of William James is understandable. They could not quote his opinion. A man's religious faith, this is in quotes, a man's religious faith, whatever more special term of doctrine it may involve, means for me essentially his faith in the existence of an unseen order of some kind in which the riddles of the natural order may be found explained. It is essential that God be conceived as the deepest power in the universe, and that secondly, he must be conceived under the form of a mental personality. The Atheist Handbook is unjust also towards James Fraser, or it might be Fraser. As quoted, he also appears to be irreligious, or when his real words in his work, The Belief in Immortality, are quoted, The question whether our conscious personality survives after death has been answered by almost all races of man in the affirmative. At this point, skeptic or agnostic people are nearly, if not wholly, unknown. Not even mentioned are the definitions of such men as, big long German name, Schleiermacher. Religion is the feel of, and this is quoted by him, religion is the feel of absolute dependence upon the unseen determinator or determiner of our destiny, accompanied by the conscious desire to come into harmonious relations with it. Or Emerson, religion is communion with the oversoul, the divinity within us reaching up to the divinity above. Or Jacob Burckhardt, religions are the expressions of the eternal and indestructible metaphysical cravings of human nature. Their grandeur is that they represent the whole supersensual complement of man, all that he cannot himself provide. At the same time, there are reflections upon a great and different plane of whole peoples and cultural epochs." Unquote. The authors of the Atheist Handbook don't even try to get light about the word religion from its various etymologies which have been proposed. Cicero derived the word from religare, which means to consider. With Augustine, it means the finding again of something lost. Lactantius sees it as a derivative of religare, meaning to tie to a higher power, to tie to a higher power. But the most curious thing is that the authors of the Atheist Handbook, while claiming to be Marxist, omit the sayings of Karl Marx from the list of various definitions of religion, embarrassed, no doubt, because of the beauty of his definition and because of the compliment which he pays to religion. Christians at odds with each other about being Orthodox, Catholic, or Protestant would feel reluctant to remind their listeners about the words of Jesus. "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you, and that you love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." John 13:34 and 35. So Marxists simply cannot quote Marx in matters of religion. Marxists cannot simply quote Marx in matters of religion because he wrote in Observations of a Young Man on the Choice of a Life Work, quote, "To men God gave a universal aim, to ennoble mankind and oneself," unquote. And much later in life, in Contributions to the Critique of Hegel's Philosophy of Right, he wrote, quote, "Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, just as it is the spirit of a spiritless society," unquote. The importance of these words is increased when you realize what Marx had learned from Hegel. Heinrich Heine tells about the latter. Quote, "One beautiful starry evening, we two stood next to each other at a window and talked of the stars with sentimental enthusiasm and called them the abode of the blessed. The master Hegel, however, grumbled to himself, 'The stars, the stars are only a gleamy leprosy in the sky.' To have for a teacher somebody with only this to say about the stars, and then to give to religion such beautiful definitions, is quite an achievement. It is true that Marx adds, quote, 'Religion is the opposite, or the opiate of the people,' unquote, religion is the opiate of the people. But put in the context above, these words lose their anti-religious meaning. Opium soothes pain. There is nothing intrinsically evil in opium. Only the discovery of anesthetics made possible the tremendous development of surgery. Marx generally had a great weakness for religion. It was a favorite topic of his. In his monumental Das Kapital, he simply says, quote, 'For such a society,' he means a society based upon a production of commodities, every society produces them, 'Christianity with its cultus of abstract man, more especially in its Borgias development, Protestantism, deism, etc., is the most fitting form of religion. Thus, every Protestant Christian can prove his case from Marx. He can tell his Marxist opponents that they abuse the name of their teacher. A true disciple of Marx must be Protestant if he wishes to have a fit religion. To think how many Protestants have been jailed and killed by allegedly Marxist rulers. Though an atheist, Marx had a bias toward religion. He was a split personality. Only later did the disciples of Marx make of his words, quote, "Religion is the opiate of the people," unquote, a terrible charge against us. People have used many things besides religion as opiates. One man, in order to escape family grief, chooses chemistry as his opiate. He passes all the time in the laboratory and discovers a useful medicine. Is the value of the medicine diminished because the research for it was an opiate to a distressed heart? Question. If one who has met with great adversities in life takes refuge in the quiet of an astronomical observatory, his work is for him an opiate. But the stars which he observes are real. So religion may be an opiate for many, but the Godhead to whom they appeal can be true. Atheism and revolutionary activities are often an opiate for children of broken homes, a substitute for rebellion against parental authority. Atheism can be an opiate to soothe one's conscience, which otherwise would give pain for the commission of gross sins. Atheism stifles the reproaches of conscience just as an opiate relieves physical pain. Marx, quote, "Religion is the opiate of the people," unquote, is something entirely different from Lenin's, quote, "Religion is a sort of spiritual gin," unquote, or the inept conclusions of Bakunin, quote, "If God exists, man is a slave, but man can and should be free, therefore God does not exist," unquote. It's like saying, quote, "Atheists claim there is no God, but faith in him gives me relief, so atheists do not exist," unquote. It would have been nice if the authors of the Atheist Handbook, writing so much about and against the Bible, had mentioned the definition of religion given by the Apostle of Christ. Quote, "Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their trouble and keep oneself unspotted from the world." James 1:27. Are our opponents really against religion thus defined? I contend that no sensible man or woman can be other than charmed by this definition. Perhaps what our atheist friends are fighting against is not religion, not even religion, but the falsification parading as such. Who can be against caring for the needy and being unspotted from the great filth of the world? Okay, so that's his definitions of religion. Very cool chapter. Anyway, we'll pick it up next Saturday, and thanks so much for joining me for this little time with Richard Wurmbrand on the answers to the Atheistic Handbook. And I hope this book helps those especially that are concerned about justice in our day. So we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.